start. So yeah, JavaScript. JavaScript is something that people call functional programming, which basically it's you create functions. And for some of you that might have mathematics background, things might be easy, too easy, even if you see some things. Yeah. But if you don't have mathematics background, things might be a little bit complicated. So we will go very slow. And if you have any questions, just please ask them. Don't hesitate, because things might be at some point that they go very fast. So yeah, JavaScript. I don't know when it was invented, but it was a long time ago. If you ever search something about JavaScript on the internet, you'll probably be redirected to this website called Mozilla, which is the company that does Firefox, the browser. Yeah, and I believe that they invented it, I'm not sure, but yeah. They have a lot of documentation of how things work, what's the new standards, what's the old standards. Every 2 years there is a new standard. So again, JavaScript is evolving all the time. When I was on last class, and you guys were also there, and if you remember, Krista used a little bit of code to make the button do something. That was JavaScript. But that JavaScript was using a library. So imagine like JavaScript is a raw thing, like it has instructions, but then people create libraries that make things easier. So for example, on that exact case, Krista was only using one line of code that said, if you find this, click here. But in a real JavaScript, you have to write a lot of code, so that creates the logic for that. So again, there's a lot of libraries out there that people write to help programmers. The old school programmers are against that, because they say that if you want something, you need to program it yourself. I agree, but once you know how to do things, it's okay to use tools. That's also why part of our program is React. React is a JavaScript library. Some people call it framework, but it's a library. It's a thing that you can, it runs in JavaScript, and it's very useful to do complicated things. But of course, you should know how the complicated things happen behind the hood. And this is where we go through now. It's the very things that for a JavaScript programmer is basic already. So once you get very used to this, then it's okay to use the library to help you. So you understand how things actually work. And yeah, and part of the description here, let me just zoom in a bit. Part of this description here are also explains of how JavaScript actually runs. And as we mentioned before, JavaScript can run both on the server side or on the client side. On the first module, and I think in the first 3 modules, we're only going to be talking about client side. So only about, and by client side, I mean the browser. So the JavaScript runs in the browser. And you will hear this a lot in this word that it's light blue, so you cannot see the Node.js. Node.js is a framework that we will also touch on our program down the line, and that's server side. So if you see things about that, I don't think we should touch that right now. I think we should only go for the server, for the client. Sorry. For the HTML course, you guys learn how to inspect, right, the website and all. And I believe that you guys are used to these tabs. In here you see the HTML, in here you see the CSS, and you can change. Now up there, if you can see, there is something called console. Yeah. Now this console is actually where you can run JavaScript. And if something goes wrong with JavaScript, it will appear here. So for instance, if you have a function, and we'll touch on that, in JavaScript that for some reason you're doing something wrong, this console will show either a warning or an error, or sometimes there are real websites out there that is full of errors, so that's terrible. It's very bad. Never do a website on production with errors on the console. If you go to a website with a lot of ads, then it's full of stuff in here, because yeah, they run scripts on your machine that they shouldn't. That's basically how people track people and things like that. And actually in here, you can actually write commands. And I mean, if you write something, it tells you that this does not exist. It does not exist, right? But then there is a thing that we will talk a lot, something called console log. And as you can see, actually, while I'm typing in Google Chrome and Firefox, I don't know the others, if they do it or not, I don't use them. While you're typing, it auto-completes. As you can see, it might not be very readable, but I start to type console, and it shows me, do you want to type console? So, yes, I do. Dot log. And now we're going to say hello, and it printed hello. Maybe I should zoom in here. Sorry, guys. Yeah, is it more readable? Yes, yeah, of course. So yeah, I wrote this whatever gibberish, and it said like, no, this is not defined. It's because the JavaScript runner does not recognize that as nothing. This is nothing. There is nothing with this name on my library that I can run. But console.log hello, basically what it does is that it logs in a console, whatever you give it. This is called console, so it logs it here, and it appears hello. This console.log is very useful for debugging because you guys learn HTML and CSS, and that's very visual, right? You change something and you see it. You change something else, you see it. JavaScript is not visual. You don't see anything because it's about calculation. It's about logic. So if you put in x plus y equals something, you don't see that happening because that's happening while running the website. So this console.log is used to log things so that you can see like, oh, 1 plus 1 equals 2, and then you can see, yes, it is equals 2. So, and this example might not make any sense right now, but again, on that example that Krista did, when you click a button here, something happens. You could actually console log that this happened. So if you open the console, then you could see it like, when you click, oh, it happened there. And maybe you make an example like that. This word, undefined, get familiar with it. It's a word of JavaScript. Everything can be undefined, which means that basically means nothing happened, doesn't have a value, doesn't have anything. And it outputs that a lot of times, and don't be scared to think that it's not an error, it's nothing, it's just JavaScript. Again, it's a bit painful sometimes, yeah.
I think it's mean as it's not a variable, something have a value.
Yes, it means that nothing has a value here. Like, yeah. But in this in the console of a website always shows these things for zero reason. This doesn't make much sense. Now, as I said, and I don't know if you understand the concept of function, of what a function is. So we can actually just do a small search. I hope I can find. Mathematical function. And this, again, you don't need to know calculus in order to know this, but I mean, this image is the explanation of a function. So a function is, and again, if you study mathematics, and I did that long time ago, so I might be saying something very wrong, but in a programming world, a function is exactly this. It's you name a function. For instance, you mention console is a function. So you give it a name, it can be a sum or a multiplication is a function. And you give it something, and then the function gives you something back. So for instance, and you've been doing this all your life, you just never noticed, right? When you go to a cashier and they ask you for, this is 100 krona, you give it 200, they give you 100 back, right? What happened there? It happened in minus, right? That's really what a function is. So we've been doing programming all our life, we just never noticed in a meaningless way of sense. And that's basically how programming is. It's like things that seem so simple, and sometimes you're gonna see like, oh, how come I never thought about this? But it is that is a function. As far as I know, in some places people even call it actions or things like that, but the word function exists everywhere in every single programming language. So yeah, that's the concept of a function in any programming language, but we are talking about JavaScript. So in here, and just this is a small question. Do you think that console is a function or log is actually a function?
Console is a function.
Because this is where, again, console log is something you need to know, that's why we are teaching in the beginning, but console.log is a bit more complicated in a world of programming. Because actually the function is this log, because it's the one that takes the hello and then tells you hello. The console is actually a class that has a lot of functions. So, and we don't need those for now, but when you type console, as you can see, oh, sorry, all those selections can be a function of console. So, for instance, if we say warn, which is a short for warning, you see actually the output was different even. What it gave to us was not the hello, it was just a yellow thing saying like, hey, you're doing something wrong, or it's a warning. That's what warn stands for. So yeah, warn is a function as well. Log is a function. But for our purpose, we will only use log for now, because we don't care, we will care. This one is used in certain places if something goes bad, but that's a little bit more advanced. Again, if you're doing something wrong with your code, you will probably see either this or this red. Red means error, this means warning. In the programming world, warnings are okay, you can ignore them, right? It's just a warning. A warning can become an error at some point. Yeah. You should never leave okay with a warning, right? If you have warnings, fix them. Yeah. Yeah, and that was the console log part that we talked about. We will see how that comes handy with today's class. But now we will see variables. So now, again, and this becomes, again, mathematics, and I'm pretty sure when you guys were learning HTML and CSS, you thought like, oh, why everybody from computer science does programming? Because it doesn't fit, right? HTML, CSS, programming, mathematics, no. But now that mathematics is going to start a little bit. But again, it's not advanced, I think. But it's concepts that if you studied mathematics, you probably know them already, but we should go slowly through each one of them. So a variable. By this description, a variable, and that's basically what it is. It's something that holds something, is a placeholder, let's say. So you can give it a number, you can give it a name, you can give it whatever value you want to store there at the time. So again, as the example we saw, what is a function here? X is a variable. Like it doesn't have a value, right? It is a variable. Now in JavaScript, specifically, there is ways of defining those variables. I have to zoom in a bit. Yeah. And you can see it down here. And again, this might be a bit tricky because there is no other word for it. That's why we call variables. But this is wrong, actually, because var is short for variable, and it is X is a variable. let is a different way of saying var. And yeah, we will actually look once we get down there. But these two are very the same. Now const is short for constant. Now, as you can imagine, I'm saying variables and now I'm saying constant is the opposite, right? A variable can always be changed, a constant can never be changed. The big problem is that there is no other word to define this. Nobody in the programming world find a different word to explain what these things are. So that's why we say everything is a variable, even though it's not a variable. Some of them can be constant. And for instance, variables are very useful, again, to store some data that you need at some point. For instance, if you're calculating an area, like it's a variable times another variable because you're not sure what is it. But if you're calculating an area of a circle, you need pi, right? The 3 point something, that's a constant. Pi never changes. So if you want to store the value of pi, you're going to use constant. But if you want to store the value of the radius, if you want to store the value of the radius, it's a var because it can change depending on what you're calculating. So that's, I think, the one way to understand it.
But let is like what do you?
It's, I didn't create it, I read it somewhere, but someone wrote that it's let it be this value. But it's not, I don't think that was the main idea. But yeah.
Var or let, they have the same concepts, but in the future we will see something or read something about scoping. Var or let, it's depending on the scope where we use this variable and who can access this variable or see the value of this variable. It will become in the future about this, but then at first, as Marco said, when we want to save a value, we would put, and this value we expect it will be changed. We put it on var or let. If it will be a constant value, we put it on constant. Like p, it's a constant value for every circle we use.
Yeah, and also, as I mentioned a little bit before, that this Mozilla guys make standards every 2 years. Like there is a lot of different standards. The let has been gaining to the var in the current standards. So, for instance, if you open on VS Code and you have some plugins installed, it can tell you don't use var anymore because people are saying you shouldn't use let, but for our level, it's okay. Var or let. And here is an example of what a let is. And again, this part we will talk about it today, but you can just look here. We are saying x equals 1, and then on here we are saying console.log_x, and of course it expects 1, and it should get 1. That one. Yeah, and that's basically what the let is used for, is to store some values. Again, I'm pretty sure some of you might be looking at all these things, what can I use this for, right? And that question is going to happen a lot during this module. Because again, we won't see visual things, we won't see buttons moving, we won't see things happening, things popping up. So JavaScript is about logic, it's about bringing up a little bit of your mathematical skills. And yeah, so bear with me on those. Yeah, let's have a look at const. Well, const, as I explained before, is where you store a value and you cannot change it at all. This is very similar to the previous example, right? Of course, we give it the number and then it does that number. But on the previous example, on the let example, and let's remove this. If we do that, so x was equal to 1, but now we're saying, no, x now is equal to 3. So it will actually console log 3 instead. But you cannot do this with a constant. If you do it on VS Code, it will, if you have, again, I'm not sure if it does that by default, it should. If you try to do const equals 1 and then right after the value of the const equals 3, even the code will tell you, no, we cannot do this, this is a constant, this is not a variable. We cannot change the constant. If it doesn't do that, once you hit run, it will throw an error saying, you're not doing anything good.
Yeah.
So actually, for instance, in here, if we run, it shows up a tree. In here, if we try to do something similar, number, come on, equals 3. Nope, it doesn't allow us to do that. Yeah. Now, since we are looking at this screen, we can talk about something called syntax. I think you guys mentioned that on the CSS part. Syntax is how to write things, how things should be written. I don't know if you ever saw memes about programming or funny jokes about programming, but everybody talks about the semicolon. Oh, you missed a semicolon, everything failed. So, and that's basically in JavaScript how you have to end a sentence, but a statement is with a semicolon always at the end, always at the end. Now there is modern versions of JavaScript that you don't need to do that anymore. But again, we are starting a programming thing. It's something very good to get used to use the full everything you need right now. This, if you wonder why do we need this, like why some languages we need this, some languages we don't. Like why? Who decided that? That's basically the runner, something called a compiler. That happens when you run this thing. Like there is a machine, in this case it's your browser, the machine, that runs those, and depending on the programming language, it doesn't know that this is over. So if you don't have those, it thinks that you're saying const number equals 42, number equals 3, everything in a row, so it cannot run it, it doesn't understand that. So this is basically, in human language, the dot. Like, if you write a sentence without a dot, people cannot read while reading. So that's basically what that is for that. And yeah, and that's why some languages don't need it, because it's programmed on that language that, I don't know if it's in the next line, it's not a sentence. Now JavaScript does not know that. Yeah, so actually in relation to this one, we will try something. Yeah, I'll just show you. No, it doesn't clear it. Okay, so it actually has to clear here. You can actually just clear all the errors and everything so that it's not dirty anymore. Now, for instance, we did this here, and of course, this is they allow you to run JavaScript on their tiny little window, but you can do this in any browser, basically. So, for instance, if we actually let's go here and we write const number equals 42, right? We press enter, and now it's set undefined again. And that basically is the browser telling you everything's actually okay. So the number now is stored on your browser as 42. So now, for instance, if you start to write number, it's here. I should have showed you before, it was not there. Definitely it was not there. And as you can see, it's already showing that it's 42. So now, for instance, if we try to say number equals 3, no, because that's a constant. And now we can even do something like console dot.
But why is it saying undefined?
Number. Yeah, again, the undefined thing here is. No, it's just a browser complaining for no reason. Yeah. This undefined here is because we ran a function in here for the browser. So the browser outputted the 42, which is the value we gave all the way up here. When we said, I want a constant with a number, with a name number called 42, I want a constant called number with a number 42 on it, it told us undefined, which it's a very bad way of saying everything's fine. It's a terrible way. That's why I don't like to run things here, but it's also because if now as you know, if you keep doing things, then you forget like, oh, what was the variable name, what was the constant, you cannot see it, right? And if you have the what?
Maybe it's because there are no errors defined, so undefined.
Yeah, it is a browser problem.
Instead of
That's
saying
definitely
it's okay, then
yeah.
no.
So if we define, like for example, we say define x equal 2x, for example, and then we call x, then we keep define. We define. I define x in function.
Yeah. Yes. That it can actually say that the function is defined. That's actually that's a way of checking if something exists in the JavaScript world. If you have a function named, I don't know, sum or a calculator, and you want to know if does this exist on this window, you can actually use the undefined to say is calculator undefined, and then it can tell you yes or no.
Okay.
But on the case we just saw on the console view here, these undefines have honestly no reason to be there. And again, and that's why I was saying that this is not your fault, you're not doing anything wrong. Because if we would be doing wrong, it would be either this or yellow. That would be the thing. So for instance, in here we can actually keep saying let, I don't know, variable equals 3. And now on this browser we have const number 42 and we have a variable 3. But of course, as it happens when you change CSS here, if you refresh the browser, everything is gone.
Yeah.
Everything you just did on the console is gone. At least I believe. I don't know if some browsers are able to keep it, but I'm pretty sure everything just wipes out. That's why, of course, this is only useful to debug, to see if everything is okay, or if everything is wrong, of course. Yes. Yeah, let's still look at variables. Yeah. We can also, until now we've been assigning a number to variables or to constants, but you can actually just define a variable. Because, let's say when we are trying to sum two numbers, x and y, you don't know the values yet, right? So you can just define, like this variable exists and it's okay to use. That's basically what happens here. They're using that foo, and now foo exists. Now if you want to give it a number, you can give it a number. So, and of course, again in here, when you look at it, for why would I do this? We will, we will look into that later, because this is very useful. Because sometimes you might want it not to have a default number, right? So this would be the perfect way. Like now it has nothing on it; it's just a name, foo. And in here is what we just did. So we can actually mix this one with that one, right? Again, we can do everything in one line because we know that we want to give it the number 4, but let's clear this. Ooh, yeah. So yeah, now it still says that it's undefined, but again, browse. Actually, now if we look at it, it is undefined, and that is true.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have anything. It's just, you told me, like, it's basically JavaScript is telling us, like, yeah, you told me this is a let, but I don't know what else is. I just know that it has the name, this variable. So now, if we say this variable equals 4, and now we print the variable, of course, now it's 4. We can just show that a little bit. Actually, if we can actually make calculations here, we can say this variable plus 5, and that's 9. But this variable, it's still 4, right?
No.
And of course, you can start combining these things. You can actually find another variable, saying the sum. And then saying that sum equals this variable plus 5. So then sum will always have the value on that exact point that we run that variable. Because again, of course, if you change the value of the other one, then the other one does not update. It's not that it goes on loop or anything. There are programming languages that do that. JavaScript doesn't. JavaScript is something that goes on the order. So if you, again, like HTML, if you write the order correctly, things will show correctly. But, and again, because it's very mathematical, there is not even a way of writing things wrong. But there is. Very far in the future. Not now. Yes, let's just talk a little bit about something called types. So yeah, until now we've only been using numbers, right? Like number 4, 42, blah, and those are numbers. But sure, do you know any other numbers? For instance? Because this is an integer number, so it's like 4 is 4. But for instance, 4.1, right? Sometimes if you divide 9 or something else, it can be 4.1, right? I don't know the calculations on that, but that can happen. And that is not really, it is a number. And again, in JavaScript world, it is also a number, but it's considered a float. And float is just decimals. It's a number plus decimals. So for instance, in here, 20.6. If you say, give me the number, the real number of that is just 10. I don't know in your school programs or whatever, but whenever you have a grading system, sometimes the grades can be 10 point something.
Yeah.
And, oh, but I need 11 to pass, and if you have 10.8, it's almost 11, so it goes up.
Yeah.
In here, if you ask for, give me the full number of that, it's always 10, it always goes down. There is functions, again, if you can program functions to calculate those things.
No.
And these are basically the ones we talked about, the number and then something called float. And float comes from the mathematics of the float point, something, which is whenever there is decimal.
What about double? Do we use double?
Not in JavaScript. Double exists in other programming languages.
Yeah.
And for instance, that's one of the problems sometimes of learning different programming languages is that you might know one very, very good, but then when you go to the other, you always need to have a dictionary to translate what does this mean on this language. So for instance, in JavaScript, these are the types we have. And these ones we already talked a little bit about. Now there's something called string. And string is, it's a word, basically, it's a string, right? It's, it can have, in there it does not have any space, but it can have spaces, it can be very long, but not too long. Technically, I think it's 200 something characters, but that has to do with databases and things we don't care about now. But for instance, you guys have been building the websites, and sometimes you see that you have a lot of text. You can actually put all that into a variable, and the browser should be able to handle it. So that should not be a problem. And again, if it is, it will tell you, I cannot have more, more characters in here. Yeah, those are it. Now, Boolean. What do you think it is? Like easy, right?
0 or 1.
Yeah.
Boolean is basically how everybody thinks programming is. Right? It's either 0 or 1. 0 but actually in JavaScript, you can actually use the word true or false. And now that we're looking at the word true or false, we cannot use them for anything else. We cannot have a variable called true. Because Some words are restricted. For instance, you cannot have a var called var. You cannot have a variable called string exactly like that, because that's the type of the variable. Like, so sometimes you can see some people writing small functions just to help calculating something. So they would write is true as a function, because they cannot call it true, because true is the value of it. So there are reserved words on programming languages in all of that. Yeah, and that's really here. Now, an array, someone does not know, even by looking there, what actually is an array? Or someone does know what is an array?
Yeah.
That's maybe a better one.
Some object and the content, the bars are placed in index. Index it starts from 0.
Yeah.
And
Sequence,
so it's
like sequence,
different types.
sequence.
Yeah.
Sequence of values for the values.
Some and it doesn't. Yeah.
Something like that. In
Something positive.
for instance, again, in mathematics, there is something called matrix, not the movie, but
Yeah.
matrix,
And
which is you can have a lot of values on it, and there is like insane ways of calculating things. We are not going to go to algebra, but that's basically what an array is. So, for instance, you can have an array with these 3 numbers on it, right? 1, 2, 3. But you can also have an array with words on it. For instance, what is your name? An array is very useful to have a data structure. For instance, actually, as you saw on your homework of last week, there was a table that it had the name. You guys have had a name and an email. An email, but like to have several things. So this you can almost consider it a table, right? It's one row table, right? You told me first. Yes.
No, that always single quotation, that can we use it for identification?
In JavaScript, yes. I think you can use. I think again there is that bad part of JavaScript that can even use this one as single quotation, this one as double, and it will still be a string. Because as you can see here, we actually define this one as double quotation as a string, and in here we are saying single. But that's because JavaScript says thumbs up to everything. Again, when we're using the VS Code might tell you that you just use double and now you're using single. Are you sure? Like, you want to have all the same? Because you should, in order to be easier to read. Yes?
It depends about the string. Some strings they have this as a code way to write.
Yes.
So it's better to use the 2. So don't mix.
Yeah, if for instance you want to have a short what is and what's,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So what as this
Yeah.
on it. There is ways of bypassing that. There is ways of writing it so that it is single quotation and it has that.
Okay.
It's a little bit trickier, of course, but there is ways. Because again, this is just the only way why we are writing it like this is because it has to be interpreted by the browser. The browser has to understand what you're writing. So you can, it's not a trick, it's just a way of doing it. You can actually say, I want this like this. But again, and that's, I think, mistake here, because if this is a string and this is a string, I would recommend of using the same. Like maybe using tiny quotes here, only one here. So that actually we would identify right away. Actually, we can just write an array on a console. Was it this one? No, this one. So nope. Actually, here, as you see, And of course, I'm writing this array, but you can write anything. I'm just, the name here doesn't matter at all. Whatever name you think it might be. And as you can see, I wrote one with one quote and two with the double quote, and then it's not really both of them with double quotes. Just because this browser considers that, like, nope, I'm deciding it for you, everything should be double quote. But there is not a golden rule for that. That's up to the developer as well.
And the number 2 is the number of values in the array.
Yes, yes, that's a very good point. This number is actually the size of the array, let's say. And actually, we can expand. Whenever you output an array here, you can expand it. And this is where things come tricky in programming. And as you said before, that the array starts at 0. That's actually a joke on a programmer's world, right? Because for instance, if we have 6 places, we count 5, because the array starts at 0 always. So, and this is like insane, very, very, very tricky when sometimes you have to calculate the size of the array or the position. For instance, as you can see here, length is 2. But if I ask for the second value, it will tell me it does not exist, because it only has 0 and 1 inside. So a lot of times you're gonna do and see people writing the size of the array minus 1, always, because we have to assume, and it's true, it always starts at 0, always starts at 0. There are those developers that make their own functions so that it makes it start at 1. That's going crazy. That's not it. But yeah, and this again, the length, and that was very good remark on this number. That's something very important when it comes to work with arrays, and you will feel that along the way. So, for instance, actually, oops, sorry. So we define an array with 1s and 2s, 1 and 2, actually. And now we can even ask for tell me the length of it. We don't have to program that, but we should know how that happens, actually. Again, it's a very useful thing to have, but it's also very important, and we will learn how does this actually work? Like, what happens inside of that thing? How does it know that it's 2? And I mean, you can see it, and probably in your head you can imagine, that's very simple, because it just has to go through it and count how many. And that's basically what happens behind the hood of it. And again, in programming, and I think that's something I do a lot, and I really enjoy when people do that, because it's also about understanding what's happening. Like, yeah, I know I can use this function, but can I see the function? And again, if you go to this website on the Mozilla, they have all the documentation, how it looks like, it's quite good in terms of those things. I can put it for you. Yeah. Yeah, and again, an array can have both. An array can have both numbers and strings. And remember, as I told you, that sometimes things can allow you to program bad things. JavaScript is one of those languages. You can do very bad things with it, but let's try to do a good thing. So this one, not. And yeah, an array, you always define it with square brackets. I think that's the name of it. So yeah, so for instance, we can actually say that the first value is this, the second is this, this. Now this is a very weird array, right? Now, the problem in here on this array There's no problem here because we want the number 1 on it. And here, for some reason, we want the word 1. And then we can have the number 1 again because we can have as many 1s as we want. Because what the array cares is the index. This array starts at 0. So it doesn't care what's the value there. But this one can never be the same. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3, and it's always sequential. Again, you ask PHP, in PHP you can actually remove this from here. So now there is no value 1, there is no index 1. That's terrible because if you are trying to go through them, everything breaks. And that's why it's not language. But yeah, in here we define this, but then for some reason we wanted to define the word this down here. Right? We wrote it or we mistyped it. But this as a word is a reserved word. And now it shows bingo. And when we print it out, it shows all those weird things. And that's why, and again, in here it shows it in a different color. It might not be visible, but for instance, the color of that, and the color of this, and the color of the index, it's all the same. Because it's a reserved thing, you should not. Yeah, it's a keyword. It's not that you should not use it, we will use this as a word, but yeah, it's a word that you should never use it here. I'm using it together with something else. You cannot use it as a word itself. And yeah, it changes depending if you're using it in a browser or whatever, so forget about the window thing for now. I just wanted to show that just by typing something that you think might be, you could use, you should not. And for instance, if we actually do, oh, true. No, the other one. Yeah, now the word this is there as a word and not as a reserved keyword for it. Yeah, I was maybe thinking just going for these two and then maybe we could make a short break. If that's okay with you guys. Yeah, and that was an array, of course, an array has a square bracket. Now we have something called an object, and an object. Sometimes people in the beginning might tend to confuse those two, array and object. What's the difference? But again, in this array, we did not define the position of each number. We kind of defined it by writing 1 first, 2, but we didn't say on the index 0 put 1, on the index 1 put this. We didn't wrote that specifically. On an object, and this one is the curly brackets, we actually can define the key that we want for the value. So for instance, we can define the object like it's written here with maybe this is a user, right, or a person. And we say the person has the name John and the age 34. And this is very useful, again, to build not logical things, because array is more for calculating, blah, 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 or adding data, but in here is really to have data that you will probably show somewhere. And again, if you're not thinking, you should. On the website, you build all that data that you have to type by hand could actually be the JavaScript putting the data there by using this. Of course, you still have to type it somewhere because we are not in a database phase yet, but it's something so that your HTML will be way smaller, right? And it will just have little logic in there to display this. And let's try to create an object here. So let's kill this one. And yeah, let's say person equals name. Name Now, when we say person as an age and a name, like we define, and yes, we define name first and age after, but no, it's not just age first and name after. That is because it's not an array. It's not in order. It's actually the browser is putting by alphabetic order. So, but that's something we cannot control. So it's actually something we need to take into consideration that the order we input things into an object is not the order that it comes out. So if the order matters, use array. Never use an object.
And so can you say it again? If we put some what?
If we put some things inside of an object, like we did here, in this order, and we wanted to use on that specific order, we should not use an object at all.
Okay.
We should use an array for that, because if we put the first element in the first place, it will always be in the first place, unless we specifically change it. But in this case, we cannot trust that the position 0 is named, because it's, in reality, there is no position 0. That's, that's the problem of it. But a very good
But
thing-
based on what the order comes, the object.
the order of the object comes usually by alphabetic order.
Alphabet? Okay.
Usually.
Yeah.
But it's something we should not trust. We should not take that as trust, but we can do this. If we want a specific thing from the object, you can actually ask for that specific thing from the object. And that's something on your right, you cannot ask for a specific thing, you can only ask for the index. You can only say, like, give me the first, and I can show that, but let's just see that.
Array
Equals, I don't know, let's say 1 and then 2. Oh, I can't, sorry. This one I can. It's not like that.
zero.
Yeah, it's like that. So for instance, in here we define this array here with the two values 1 and 2, and as we saw before, the value 1 is in the position 0 of the array, the value 2 is in the position 1 of the array. And this is the way of asking for a specific position of the array. So you write the name of the array you define, and then with the square brackets 0 inside, or 1 or 2. And actually, we can try to see this. As you can see, it's already telling us it's undefined. It's not there. We only define 2 numbers. Now we're asking me for the fourth, actually, because it starts at 0 again. So 3 is actually the fourth value. But that is something. Again, depending on your use case, depending on what you're building. If you're building something where you actually know exactly what's going to be the key of it, and that's what this is called, is the key, then you should define an object. Because if you're having like a person, like we have here, and you know that it's going to have an age and a name, it does not make sense to actually put the age of the person here and the name of the person here, because then in order to ask for it, you need to ask for, oh, the age is the position 0, the name is the position 1, so objects are very, very useful for those kind of things. To be honest, in my daily work, I use objects all the time. Because most of the times you're working with data, to display data, to organize data somewhere, for instance, by looking at here, I'm pretty sure it's not, but by looking at here, you can see that this would be a title, right? And maybe might be defined with a title and then the title element. So it doesn't make sense to go through the array and say, give me the 0 and put it here. Give me the 1 and put it here. Like that, if somebody else would look at that code, could not understand what's going on. But if you look at the code where it says person.name, probably it's an 8, right? Probably, unless the developer did something wrong. Yeah. And now let's jump to the function to see. We've been talking about functions, and we saw functions working. And again, the word function is a reserved word, so it's actually technically used to define a function. We don't need that anymore, but we should use it always. So if we just copy this and paste here, actually, oh, sorry, come on. Let's paste it, and we need actually to give a name because this function doesn't have any name. It just says function, and then brackets, parentheses, and then brackets, and then returns 4. So we can say this returns 4, right? Okay. Ah, no, I did something very wrong here. Sorry. Come on. Oh, yeah, it's you cannot really run it like this, but
Actually, the closing document. Can we run it in Java?
no, because in order to call a function, we need to do something else. But
Yeah.
we'll do that. The definition of it, again, we could actually use in some JavaScript code, even I see people actually using let as a function, because if you can technically do that, let is a very powerful thing, but there is a word function to define functions, so let's use that. But if you search on the internet, you might find something different, but if you see, usually those parentheses actually means it's a function. Of course, the word function also helps you with that. And yeah, and those parentheses can be used to send in variables. So let me just see here. Those are the type-offs I think that we'll talk about later. So yeah, the types that we're talking about, those are the types that we have. And I think, as you saw, when I was defining arrays, I was actually using numbers and strings. When I was defining objects, I was actually using strings and numbers. So now the question is, can we actually define an array inside of an object and the other way around?
Can we what?
Define an array inside of an object,
Yeah.
or define an object inside of the array? Yes, we can make as much complicated stuff as we want. Sometimes, of course, things require to be complicated. And again, for instance, this function returns a number, but the function can also return an array. If the result that we need is an array, the function can return. And we will see different examples of those things. Or the function can also return an object as well. And the object inside can have arrays, or strings, or numbers. But again, we actually never really used these names yet, right? We actually only use this name for function. We never really use these names to define anything. And it's because JavaScript doesn't need that. Because by you giving it, if you have a let, for instance, let through 6, JavaScript knows that, okay, this is a number. Because, first of all, it doesn't have quotes. But if you actually give it a 6 with quotes, JavaScript will say like, okay, this is a string. And the content of the string is 6, is the character 6, not the number 6. So yeah, these types are not, we don't have to define them, but it's important to know them because sometimes we might have to, let's say, compare something with something. And if you are comparing a 6 with a string 6, it's not the same thing, technically. from a human perspective, it is. We see a 6, we see a 6. It's the same thing, but a computer cannot recognize that inserted. So yeah, and of course you can have numbers and floats. Again, this one we don't have to define them, so that's why in JavaScript it will make sense, but I honestly think I don't use floats at all, even though the numbers are in float, but on my code I never type that. But the types is something very, 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 very important in programming. When I started to program, I had zero idea what types even were. I knew what types were, but we were not really taught about if you need a string, you should use a string. I would just use whatever. And then when I started to actually use types, even in another programming language, I saw like, oh, I've been writing code wrong all the time. So types are very important to know. And again, I think the differences between these two is it's very important to understand the question or the problem you want to solve, because that can cause you a headache if you choose to use it with arrays. And actually the problem will be way easier if you use an object or the other way around. So sometimes also it's in programming it's a lot about having the luck to choose the right solution in the beginning, or realizing halfway through, like, oh, maybe I should do this with an array, and then things become easier. Should we do a small break now?
Yes.
Yeah, a few minutes, I think maybe. So let's do that.
Let me stop this.